If you're a self-storage operator, investor, or developer, having access to the right market data is critical for success. StoreTrack is the industry's leading provider of self-storage market intelligence. Access the most accurate, up-to-date data available to self-storage professionals to help you make informed decisions with confidence. The self-storage market is constantly evolving, with pricing shifts, supply changes, and new developments shaping the landscape. Without accurate data, you could miss key opportunities or fall behind the competition. For operators, StoreTrack provides data-driven insights to optimize pricing, maximize occupancy, and stay competitive in any market. Track local supply, demand, and competitor activity in real time. If you're looking to invest or develop in self-storage, StoreTrack helps identify the best markets, analyze demand, and evaluate pricing potential. Make smarter site selection decisions with comprehensive market reports and analytics. Whether you're managing facilities, expanding your portfolio, or planning your next investment, we've got the insights you need. No matter your goal, StoreTrack has the right solution for you. Automate competitor rate tracking, optimize rates, and maximize revenue, integrate pricing data into your software, or identify new investment opportunities. Let's help you reach your goals. Get started today. Contact us to see what solution is the right one for you, or request a demo of our products at storetrack.com.
Are you a self-storage owner or operator looking for service providers to help at your facility? Well, the Storage Business Owners Alliance, also known as the SBOA, has you covered. The SBOA is the premier online hub for connecting self-storage owners and operators to industry-leading products and service providers. We provide one-stop shopping for your business with exclusive offers to save time and money. At the SBOA, we believe by coming together, we help owners and operators grow revenue, gain purchasing power, reduce expenses, improve efficiencies, and increase profitability. We also offer many resources such as our conferences and Self-Storage Unlock webinars to help self-storage owners and operators gain the knowledge needed to become more competitive in the industry. To become an SBOA member or to find out more information, please visit www.thesboa.com today. We can't wait for you to join the Alliance.
Are you attending the SSA Spring Conference and Trade Show in Orlando? Don't miss Dinner with the Sharks at SeaWorld with the SBOA. Save the date, Thursday, March 13th at 8 p.m. This event is for SBOA Enhanced members only, so watch your email for details.
Good morning to everyone in self-storage land. Welcome back to Self-Storage Unlocked, brought to you by the Storage Business Owners Alliance, better known as the SBOA. I'm Iris Segan, president of the SBOA, and it is an honor to host today's webinar designed to help you maximize your revenue this year by leveraging the power of market insights. Today, we're going to hear from top industry experts from StoreTrack and White Label Storage, and they are going to talk about using market data to optimize your pricing, how to enhance the customer experience to drive retention, and exploring growth opportunities. But before we get started, here are a few quick reminders. If you have questions today, please drop them in the chat. We love getting questions. We're going to try to answer as many live as we can. If for some reason we can't get to your question, we will follow up with you after the webinar. And we have a special little gift for you today. The more interactive you are, the more chances you have to win a $25 Amazon gift card. So we're excited to do that for you. Also, please participate in our live polls throughout the webinar. We'll have 4 questions to ask. It helps us learn more about our audience. And we also want to help, get you interactive and joining in with the show. So without further ado, I want to introduce our first panelist, and that is Christine Washman from StoreTrack. Hi, Christine. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Iris?
I'm good. Can you tell everybody a little bit about you and what you do at StoreTrack?
Sure. I am the Director of Market Analytics at StoreTrack, and I basically do all the analysis of the data and the market trends to be able to share it with everybody in the self-storage industry. But my background really is with commercial real estate, from multifamily, office, industrials, and now self-storage. So I have a lot of insights that I'm happy to share with everyone who's interested in hearing it.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to hearing more about that. Up next, we have Alex Hartman from White Label Storage. I can't talk today. How are you, Alex?
I'm good. Nice to be here with everyone today. I'm really excited to share our perspective.
I'm really glad you could join us. Can you tell everyone a little bit about you? What drove you to found White Label?
Good question. So you'll be introducing my co-founder Pete in a moment, but we started the company together. We were classmates and friends in business school. We started our own we have our own stores, and we figured out how to kind of manage them and operate them effectively. And we realized that we could take those skills to start helping owners, that are owners like the folks on this webinar. So we got in it to try and help others.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to hearing your insights, and we'll bring you back up in a moment while we introduce Peter. Hi, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for the introduction.
Thanks for joining us. Tell everybody a little bit about you.
Sure. Aside from what Alex already shared, I guess I'd add, I have a background in real estate. I worked in real estate acquisitions and real estate development before getting into self-storage. And I guess one thing I'd add to maybe sort of extend Alex's description is that while we were building our own stores and managing our own stores, we sort of developed our own process and technology that includes some of our own software development and some scale. And that was kind of a key piece to figuring out that we could help manage stores on behalf of at first we were calling it sort of a non-institutional management product. Because we've built our own software, we can strip out a lot of the costs that are in the typical self-storage tech stack. But now we've gotten into some larger, more institutional clients, and we're a third-party operator.
That's great. Congratulations on your success. I'll be bringing you back up in just a minute. And last but not least, we have James from StoreTrack. How are you, James?
Hi, Iris. I'm doing great. Thank you for having us today.
For those who don't know you, please tell them a little bit about you and what you do at StoreTrack.
Sure. A little background on me. Prior to joining StoreTrack, I spent about 15 years in the self-storage business, actually in the trenches, working on both operations and acquisitions side, and for a number of different groups, from starting with a medium-sized operator, 14 property portfolio, to some of the largest REITs and privately held groups in the country. So I have a wide background and have seen several different processes at work and how they function. And with StoreTrack, I'm the business development manager, and I help people kind of choose, which product is really going to benefit them best based on what they're working on.
Well, that's great. Well, let me bring everyone else back up. And do you want me to go ahead and bring up your presentation now? If you're ready,
Sure.
Christine?
Yeah, sure.
There we go. Okay. I will leave it to you. When we get questions from the audience, I will kind of jump back in and bring those up.
Okay, great. Thank you, Iris and SBOA, for hosting today's webinar. I'm excited to be here to share the latest market trends and strategies to help our operators navigate 2025. So on our first slide, what I want to show everybody is the current supply of self-storage in the US. And one more slide. Okay, maybe this was the 5th slide, but here it is. This is the, the entire US. And as you can see, there are a lot of dots. And what that represents is approximately 70,000 facilities across the US, totaling 1.7 billion square feet of rentable space. And that accounts for almost 8 square feet per capita on average. However, because that's an average, not all markets are created equal. And while some areas are undersupplied and experiencing steady demand, others face intensifying competition and pricing pressures. So understanding your market supply dynamics is key to positioning your facility for success. On to the next slide is the incoming new supply to add to these colorful dots. And as we can see, there's about 4,000 plus projects in development nationwide. And this is even though construction has slowed, they're still adding because there is that much demand for the asset class. And obviously, this will have a direct impact on pricing and occupancy strategies. And a couple of examples, some markets facing oversupply and competitive pricing. I'm sure we've heard of, Atlanta, Sandy Springs MSA. Industry average is about 7 to 8 square feet per capita is sort of what's considered the equilibrium, the balance between supply and demand. And Atlanta Sandy Springs is approximately, we're seeing around 12 square feet per capita. San Antonio around the same, and that's with current supply. So with incoming new supply, you're seeing a little bump from that. And what that's impacted is pricing. Over a 12-month period, pricing in Atlanta has gone down about 13%, and San Antonio about 4%. So, these markets are seeing aggressive lease-up strategies to maintain their occupancy. Markets with some growth potential, on the other hand, we're seeing a few of those in the Northeast, like the New York, New Jersey markets, and Philadelphia, and some in the Midwest. And those markets currently have under 4 or 5 square feet per capita, and even with new supply coming in, it's still going to be way under that 7 square foot per capita, what we consider the equilibrium. And despite these new projects being undersupplied, what's there to the sort of lesson of that is they offer opportunities for future rent growth, again because obviously there's robust demand in those areas. And for operators, the message here, it's essential to monitor local demand and adapt your lease-up strategies to remain competitive. And, with that, let's go on to the next slide to look at our rate trends. Okay, so this is our street versus online rates. And over the last 3 years, we've seen rental rates steadily decline, and it's been driven by competition and evolving pricing strategies. The trend that we're seeing is this widening gap between street and online rates. And what that's reflecting is the increased reliance on digital marketing, that was a mouthful, to attract tenants, and discounted online pricing to drive move-ins. Some specific market-specific trends were, I just want to share in Los Angeles, for example, online rates are about 12% lower than walk-in rates. In Dallas-Fort Worth, operators discount online rates by about 9% on average. And in Miami, we're seeing seasonal fluctuations result in 50 to 20% differences between online and in-store rates. So operators essentially must be proactive in adjusting pricing based on seasonality, competition, and demand shifts to maintain their profitability. And with that said, let's get into the use of promotions and pricing strategies, because this has been a hot topic in the past year or so. And promotions have really become a key tool for boosting occupancy. Right now, what we're seeing in our database is over 21,000 self-storage stores are offering promotions, with the top 5 being listed on the screen. And these are ranked from the most frequently used promotions down to the less frequently used ones. But that's still 21,000 stores using these top 5 sort of incentives. And one thing to keep in mind here is that while promotions help fill units faster, operators must ensure that they don't sacrifice their long-term revenue in the process. So essentially, what we're seeing is that despite those near-term pricing pressures, self-storage really remains to be a top-performing real estate sector. There was an article or research paper that was put out by, I think it was PwC, where they ranked self-storage second only to data centers for investment potential. So there's a lot of capital that's actually entering self-storage, and it's driving consolidation and operational efficiencies just for operators to stay competitive. And add to that, we sort of see interest rates stabilizing in the near term. And with that, housing turnover could increase, and that's going to drive more demand. And let's see. So as we've seen, staying ahead in 2025 really will require strategic pricing, operational efficiencies, and smart market positionings. And operators who understand their market dynamics and adjust their pricing strategies accordingly will have that significant advantage. And to dive deeper into the role of technology and strategies for revenue growth using the data-driven pricing, I'll turn it over to Jim. And he's the one who will share insights on how operators can leverage AI and automation to optimize pricing and drive profitability. Jim, over to you.
Sounds great. Thanks, Christine. So as Christine mentioned, each market is a little bit different. And again, as covered already, is the increased competition. In those markets, I think it's really important to understand who your direct competitors are. So for example, understanding apples for apples pricing. So when we look at the large scale nationally, you see that decline. There are markets that are actually increasing because of demand issues. A lot of those markets are facing incoming pressure. So again, understanding your competition and who your real direct competitors are. So for example, if you look at like in Atlanta, for example, you don't really want to look at the whole market. You really want to focus on who are my 5 or 6 or maybe even 10 competitors and what are their offerings. Now, where StoreTrack comes in, or if it's not us, finding that automation. So for example, do you want to spend hours going through each of your competitors, or would you like to just get a report that gives you your competition, tells you if they're ground floor units or upper floor units? Again, if you have ground floor units, you certainly don't want to mix that pricing in with your upper floor units. So keeping those unit differences separated and understanding what your true competition is and doing it in a timely manner, that's really kind of where we come in and where we can help you, quickly assess that market. And again, even other factors to consider when you're looking at that is the operator type. So for example, if you're in a market that has a higher percentage of REITs or large operators, you're probably going to want to pay more attention to what they're doing and what their pricing strategy is. If you're in a tertiary market that has more small and medium operators, we're seeing probably a little bit more stable pricing. Again, each market has its own benefits. So again, not saying one market is better than the other, but learning how to compete in those markets, I think, is important. And then again, with the revenue optimization, when you see these low prices, understanding that there is a strategy to raise those rates back up. And that's kind of why we track the in-store rates versus the advertised rates. The goal is to get those back up to those street rates or above as quickly as possible. So having that process in place to get those revenues back up is critical. So again, when you look at what the advertised rates are versus for example, the REIT's quarterly reports, there's a widening gap. But again, the REITs are reporting those quarterly numbers because they have an effective ECRI process. So again, understanding where the starting point is and understanding where you want to get to is critical to the business right now.
James, we have a quick question for you from Cedric.
Sure.
Cedric asked, are we seeing these promotions bringing people in that turn into long-term tenants, 9 or more months?
This is where I think, and again, this is where Peter and Alex are probably going to have a little bit more input, but length of occupancy seems to be, tenant occupancy seems to be being stable or staying stable. And then again, finding out, again, when it comes to marketing is a huge factor. And I always tell people this when they're looking at pricing. You can lower your price, but if nobody's looking at your product, the only person you're competing with is yourself. So I think the people with really effective marketing strategies are going to do better. So having that insight, let's say, for example, you have a 5x10 and you haven't rented, you've only rented a couple in the last month or two, and you're wondering if it's price or promotion. Get an understanding of who's clicking on your website, what they're looking at. If they're not looking at it, maybe you have to look at marketing rather than rates. So again, there is a balance there to understanding, how to maximize that efficiency.
Yeah. And to jump in,
go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, from our side and our perspective, and to Jim's point, it really depends on the local market and the time of year. So running promotions in the summer, particularly if you're in a college market, is probably not wise because you're subsidizing someone who already is going to book because they have to, because they're leaving their college campus and just have to put their stuff somewhere. Versus in the dead of winter, if you're catering really to long-term residents who might be with you for years, doing the promotion might make sense to bring them in, and you're going to see a longer duration of stay. Sort of that being said, promotions are often done to stand out relative to the competition. They don't necessarily always bring in customers who otherwise wouldn't book, right? So if no one is doing promotions, you might not want to. If you're competing against a REIT who is, you better.
Yeah, promotions don't change the demand driver. Most of the customers that you're going to get are people that were actively going to search for storage anyway. You're not creating net new customers for the most part with promotions. So the short answer to Cedric's question is yes, we are seeing long-term customers coming in on promotions, but most of the time that we are running a promotion, you're running it because that's what's going on. The prevailing rate in the market is a promo rate. And what coincides with the promo rate is a subsequent rate increase. And the rate increases are what create more churn in the market today than the prior, more stable street rate market. And that's driven primarily, it's coming kind of top down from the REITs. And I was going to talk about doing ECRI in a little bit, existing customer rate increases. But, the only way to make the revenue, a revenue management strategy that the REITs have decided to pursue, and I think it's potentially mainly been led by Extra Space, or they seem to get a lot of the blame for this, is dump your rates, get as many people in the boat as possible, and then crank rates and see who stays. And they have such an effective marketing strategy and marketing team. They're a big company. They throw a lot of money at capturing new tenants, that they can backfill those tenants and they can bring people in on promo rates, increase rate, churn, keep the people who pay, and they can keep running that process. So it's hard to compete with that as a smaller operator, and we can talk about strategies, but the churn is typically happening because of that cycle, not because of the promo itself as a standalone.
And I'll expand on Cedric's question. Once someone moves in, what are the odds they're going to leave for a lower price?
Not there. Most people aren't shopping, right?
Right.
You're happily there. You're content. So you're going to shop if either the facility you don't like, the maintenance issues, so on, or if someone sort of, stirs up the bee's nest and increases your rate really aggressively and you're annoyed and so on, then you might take a peek around and see if you can get a better deal. But other than that, assuming people need storage, it's not something you're checking daily, right?
Right.
Those are things to do.
That's
Yeah,
good.
and I think a lot of operators too have a formula or have an understanding they've experienced. And again, like we're using Extra Space as the example, but I think for operators of any size, when you're doing those rate increases, there's a formula or a balance that you can factor. If you raise 15%, you're going to have a 1% fallout, something of that nature. So again, does the revenue offset the loss, and then what's the cost of acquisition for replacing that customer? So that's always kind of the tricky balance. And again, it's that's where it becomes, from the management perspective, understanding those dynamics and really kind of using them efficiently.
Thank you. And we have a couple more questions from Gary. He asked, Alex and Peter, how do you keep track of local markets from 1,000 miles away?
Yeah, so we're a third-party manager, but we are most successful when we are working closely with owners who are local and have the local insight, so we can combine their local knowledge with our sort of scale and kind of management processes. But then it's also, when we're talking about keeping track of local markets, we have teams that are dedicated to the asset that need to get smart on it. But then also there are a lot of similarities too that we see with our portfolio and with some scale. So there's a lot more in common with a rural location outside of New York City than there is with a rural location, say outside of Atlanta, than there is between a location 2 hours outside of New York City and 2 hour in Manhattan, right? So part of it is just we've done it enough to learn. We bumped our shins along the way, but we just roll out our best practices sort of based on things like population, demand drivers, so on, and that allows us to manage locations effectively across the country.
But as far as rates go, you don't need to be in a market to see any competent storage manager has bookable rates on their website and is going to be transparent about their pricing. They might not be transparent about when they're going to move rates on you down the road, but you at least know what you can book a unit for. And storage is a commodity. So it's about price and it's about location. When a customer is looking for a storage unit, they're looking for a certain type of unit, and then they're going to look at, they might go to Google Maps, they might just know it from being in the market, but they're going to know a 10 by 10 is $100 in this market. If somebody's selling it for 90 and somebody's selling it for 100, I'm going to book the one for 90, all things being equal. You can do that from anywhere. And you can especially do it if you use the simplest way to do it, and the most sort of manual way to do it is to just go on Google Maps, search, and create a spreadsheet and track the rates. A more sophisticated way to do it was developed by the guys running this call, StoreTrack, right? Their whole presentation is like they track the rates for all these facilities. And then there's hybrid ways. So for example, we built our own tool that uses the StoreTrack API. And what we do is we do the manual input of, we determine what the comps are. So we say, I care about this comp, this comp, this comp. I don't care about this comp because he doesn't even have bookable units. So we look within a certain radius, and then we use the StoreTrack API, which pulls the rates in real time from those facilities, populates our rate sheet, and then we can determine where we want to price our units in relation to that. Tools like StoreTrack allow you to do that from 1,000 miles away in Brooklyn, where 4x4s are $150 and 10 by 20s are $150 in some other markets.
Yeah, and one of the things too with that, again, especially if you're a small operator or something like where you're doing this stuff manually, having either pulling that data through our API which again requires some sophistication, which white label has. But if you're an individual operator, again, it takes a lot of time to get on and search all those. And where do you really want to put your efforts? And that's what, one of the things that we offer, obviously, and with the optimized platform, is we collect rates every day. And we allow for automation of, comp reports, market activity, and we'll go through a couple of these in the upcoming slides, where we're going to give you the details. And again, this is also available, as Peter mentioned, through the API. So again, they can see if it's upper level, ground level, and again, incorporating that with their expertise is really a key factor. And again, we kind of give you the same tools that an Extra Space or a Public Storage or any of those type operators use, obviously on a little bit more slimmed down scale. And again, as Peter mentioned, picking your competition. It's not every store in that market is your competition. It's really kind of narrowing it down to who are your real competitors. So again, we allow you to do that. They obviously do it for you. And again, that's where that experience comes in. And again, having access to the data is incredibly important. All of the best operators are running on data. Very few of the really successful groups are manually doing this stuff. I mean, it's just that time has kind of passed. So having access to that data is so critically important.
Oh, yeah. Well, Gary is on fire today. He has two more questions for you. He asked, what is the price level that people will move out? And I'm assuming there's at least some research of not necessarily an exact dollar amount, but maybe a percentage of an increase.
Sure. There is. And Alex and Peter can probably speak better to this because, again, it is a little bit market driven, by individual markets. And again, for example, I'll just give you one. If you have a 10 by 20, a larger unit, where it's going to require you to rent a truck and maybe hire movers or something of that nature, it becomes a little bit more tedious to make that change and move your stuff to another location. So in a lot of cases, there are percentage formulas, as I mentioned, Extra Space, and most of the large operators track those rate increases and they track their move outs. So they know where that percentage point lies. And again, it's not a 100% fact that there's any specific number nationally, but there is, again, like I said, if you raise it 15% and you have a 1% fallout, that's probably an acceptable number. And again, each market is different. So, I'm sure, like I said, Alex and Peter probably have more details on that.
It also depends what the in place. So that there's a couple factors you look at when you run your rate increases. You care about where's the market rate. So where, if a tenant is paying $100 for a unit and the market rate for that unit is $150, you've got more room to push that rate than if the tenant's paying $100, you're in the dead of winter, a bunch of supply has delivered, and now that same unit is renting for $80. For the most part, as Ira said, tenants aren't going to, look around and price shop. But if you go and you push their rate, you're going to make them aware of their rate, and then they're going to look and they're going to see that rates in the market are already lower than what they were paying before, and now you're pushing that rate on them. So we use a formula, and we can tailor it based on what's going on in the market, what time of the year it is. Is there a bunch of supply? Are we in a down market? But we try not to push too far above the market rate. We put caps on how much you can increase. So if somebody comes in at a promo rate and they're 50% below market, you just don't want to push, even if market's at 100%, at 100 and your tenant is at $50. If you push them 50% up to 100 where market rate is, you're then going to get a very bad review that looks bad. It's just another factor you need to track. So, putting aside, maybe any ethical problem you might have with maybe gouging a customer, whatever your philosophy is on that, you're still going to deal with a negative review cycle. And so you just need to be thoughtful about not just churn, but what the response will be. Because if you get bad reviews, then you get bad SEO performance, then you have less demand, and then your rates are going to drive down. Your market rates are going to drive down anyway. So I would say to look at that in isolation, you need to understand really what's going on. But I've never seen more than when we've run ECRI, never seen more than like 10% churn over the next 3 months. Again, I would never go into a facility and run 100% of the units on a rate increase at the same time, because you can create, a really bad sort of death spiral there with the reviews and the move outs. But you got to be thoughtful about it. You got to see where the market is. And there's more than just, a standard X percent is going to churn with an X percent increase.
Yeah. So like staggering ECRI, if you have 120 customers doing 10 per month or something like that, it allows you to kind of test along the way too. If no one moves out or no one complains, maybe you didn't push hard enough. If everyone leaves and leaves you bad reviews, you clearly went too far. I suspect more folks on this webinar aren't, operating in New York City and LA and so on. So like the REITs, which do the most aggressive ECRI, typically, they're also in the markets that are often supply constrained, and also they just have so many people that if they lose some customers, they can replace them. But if you're operating in a market where, a small rural town where there's 200 storage units and maybe there's only 200 people that want them, like that churn can be devastating. And then also it's a market maybe also where people talk, right? In the large metros, no one is not, dinner party conversation. The low, if they increased their rates like it might be, in a small town where you did more reputational damage.
I agree too with what Peter had said, is that again, raising all of your rates at one time, probably not the best practice. So a lot of times with these ECRIs, a lot of times those are staggered. It's not like, hey, in January we're going to pop the whole facility 20% or something of that nature. So having a plan and understanding, and again, what Peter said too, obviously you don't want negative reviews. So again, staggering that and understanding the reaction to it is critical.
I just noticed the chat. We've said ECRI a number of times. That's existing customer rate increase. And Gary really is on a heater here. So we got a bunch of questions we got to answer.
He is. This is a great question for Alex and Peter. How would I keep a third party accountable? What do I need to ask them?
Sure. They should be giving you some sort of monthly reporting that tracks KPIs that would indicate, one, facility level performance, and two, management performance and management activity. Things like existing customer rate increases, methodology and rationale for it. I'll start with what they should be doing, sort of inputs and reporting on inputs, and then move to actual facility performance metrics. So on inputs, if you're in a facility management software, you want leads to be responded to same day, hopefully within an hour or two. That's going to be big because, again, we're talking about conversion rates. If a lead calls your facility and they're shopping around, there's data that would show, you want to follow up with offer a promo, try to convert that lead before another store converts them. That's a metric you want to track. Are they at facility maintenance things? Are they providing pictures of the property? Are they tracking overlocked units? Are they handling accounts receivable and doing everything they need to do there to adhere to delinquency timelines? You should just have somebody that is transparent about how they're doing the blocking and tackling that it takes to run the facility, and that's just on inputs. And then there's the outputs. There's you care about occupancy, you care about your top line increase, you care about your accounts receivable or bad debt or delinquency over 30 days. Let's see, if we could give you a couple more metrics that you might care about. Leads and lead conversion. You want to be an industry standard tends to be sort of 60% conversion rate of leads. Now, we ask ourselves a lot of questions around what qualifies as a lead. Are you capturing every phone call? But those are things that should all be a part of some sort of comprehensive reporting that's done either weekly or monthly, and that will tell you if your manager is managing competently.
Yeah, and I guess that's sort of, what you should hold them accountable to, but then it's like, how do you hold them accountable to? You need to sort things out. So I would say two things come to mind, and there's probably more. You want to, if you're getting the reports, you want to understand them, you want to read them, you want to reach out, you want to have a call, you want to track this stuff over time. And then also you just want to make sure you're getting into a relationship where, for lack of a better word, you have leverage. So we're not trying to, plug ourselves too hard, but we operate on month-to-month contracts day one. So if you're not happy, you would be able to leave. Other groups, if they're locking you into a 3-year contract, or there is a big buyout if you want to leave early, or sometimes with the REITs, they require you to rebrand in their name. So then now the exit cost, you need to rebrand your facility, signage, doors. It's too expensive to leave. So just thinking about when you're going in, what will happen if they're not performing, and will I be able to switch it up or not?
Okay. Great information from everybody. Cedric had a question. We'll get that out there real quick and let you continue with your presentation, James.
All right.
Are the rates that StoreTrack has, do they incorporate mom and pop operators with no online presence in the market?
If the operator does not have a website, we do not, because we collect rates every day, early in the morning. So again, if they do not have rates, we do not capture. We don't do any calling around or anything of that nature. However, most operators now do have websites and offer rates, and anybody that isn't, moving forward, the next generation of self-storage users, we live in the Amazon generation. Again, I'm waiting on phone calls and things of that nature. I think the statistic right now, online rentals account for probably 30 to 50% of your rentals. So without that online presence, you're dramatically reducing your opportunity for success. But again, here's the thing: if you have a small facility and you're content just collecting the rates and not doing anything, again, that's kind of a different operation, and it's really becoming less and less of a way to do business in this industry.
To be fair to Jim, or to follow up on that, the reason the StoreTrack even tracks rates is so that you can have an indication of what your rate should be. And if you're a facility owner, that's removing feasibility studies in a market. And so when we track competitor rates, we are only looking at competitors that we think are competitive, and they would be competitive. The best indicator of someone being competitive is somebody that's competent. And if you have a storage facility that does not have bookable units online, it's an indication that you are not really institutional. And if you aren't doing that, what else are you not doing? You probably don't have a good handle on what the prevailing rate in the market is, because if you're not focused enough to do the number one thing you could do to make that facility perform, then you may not be tracking rates every day in the market. And so that, we look at a number of things, but if you're right across the street from a facility that doesn't have a website, you should be aware of those rates. But if you're looking at 5 facilities and They're all in the same submarket. The one without the website is the one that matters least. The one that has bookable units on their website, a handful of Google reviews that are recent, and answers their phone. That's the guy that is probably going to steal a customer from you, and that's the guy whose rate you need to be aware of.
Yeah, and again, too, even like with Google, which is primarily how people find their self-storage, or if it's a drive-by, those are really your two top categories. Without having your features and all your things advertised on there, again, as Peter said, that's really not a serious competitor when it comes to booking those units up. Or again, in some cases, when you get into those secondary markets, I'll give you a great example on small operators who did have their rates online but didn't really pay attention to the rates over the COVID period. And we went back and looked at a number of different facilities in those tertiary markets where the rate just stayed flat. They missed out on just a tremendous amount of revenue by not staying on top of what was going on with the larger operators. So again, understanding the trends and seeing what's going on, it's really important to have that presence, and again, understand who your true competition is.
Absolutely. All right, I will let you go on, James.
If you could, I'll go over this slide real quick. Again, this is just one of our features where we're going to show you, what floor the unit's on, if it's ground floor or upper. We're going to give you more details as far as the advertised online rate and the walk-in rate if it's different. And we'll also show you any type of promotions over on the far right side. So again, having all that information at your fingertips so that you can look at it quickly, again, super helpful versus going in and clicking through and trying to find all the individual operators. Again, understanding your local market, going out and visiting them makes sense. But if you're just wanting to keep up on this on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, I mean, this can all be automated. The next screen we're looking at here, this is a competition shop. Again, it's a report that can be automatically sent to you. Or if you're on the website, you can download this in about 30 seconds versus multiple hours of collecting that rate data. A little personal experience, and actually how I first became associated with StoreTrack prior to joining the team. We had a portfolio that had about 14 locations, and we relied heavily on our managers to collect that data, put that into a form, send it in on a particular day of the month. Then we'd go back and analyze it. What ended up happening in most cases was we wouldn't get the reports in a timely manner to make a decision. Again, sometimes it's human error. The wrong facility rates. Maybe they're putting in a upper level rate or upper floor rate instead of a ground floor rate. There's all this manual labor that just can lead to inaccurate data, and in some cases making inaccurate pricing decisions or revenue management decisions. Having this all done for you, and it literally just shows up in your email, again, is just a huge benefit and a time saver. Again, you can focus more on your marketing, focus more on your property aesthetics, whatever you want to do, rather than having somebody sitting at a computer trying to click around and figure all this out. We do that work for you and do it quickly. Again, this is another report. This is what is a market activity report. And again, this can be based on your particular comp set. So again, we'll show you all the competitors in the market. And again, we do track small operators. There's a high percentage, again, small. What we define as small and single operators. Single operators are one location operators. and small operators are 1 to 5 locations, they still make up the majority of the market, even with the REITs and the large operators. The two individual or small and single operators are still the majority of the market. So it's really important to note that. And again, a great deal of them do have websites that we collect that data from. When you're looking at this, there's a couple of things. On the left-hand side, we're going to show you any type of rate changes that occurred from yesterday to today. And again, you're going to also see your store pricing in there as well. So you can see how you compare. Is the market going up? Is the market going down? Who changed their rates? Again, not that you have to react to it, but being aware of it is incredibly important. And then we also show you the inventory activity. So on the right-hand side, we're going to show you, and again, this was a big sampling of a larger market. We're going to show you how many offerings are in the market for those particular unit sizes. So when you go and you look at one particular unit size that has 9 offerings, or another particular unit size that has 40 or 50 offerings, that kind of gives you an idea of what you're competing against. And again, you can look at that and kind of make a decision from that perspective too, what you have to do with your pricing or your marketing. Again, there's a lot of different details that we track in here.
Okay. Well, we talked a lot about this in advance of the slides, but I guess just to kind of put a bow on the ECRI, is really how you run it and when you run it are the two things that you want to be thinking about. How you run it is understanding what are your current in-place rates, what is the market rate, and how long has your tenant been there. You don't want to, and then frequency. That's how you run it. So you may have a formula. You may just want to do it once a year. You probably want to move rates at least once a year. So I'd say have that be sort of the cap on how infrequently you might run it. Maybe you want to run it every 9 months. I know the REITs are running it more frequently than that. Anywhere from 4 to 6 months is what we are seeing and hearing. That's hard to keep up with, and I wouldn't recommend that in a market where there's not a ton of demand and a lot of volume. And then
that's 4 to 6 months on individual customers. They're doing ECRI essentially every day across the facility.
Right. You should be running this analysis every month. You're looking at your tenants and you're looking at the when was their last increase? And that might just be when they moved in. So 9 months later, you should reassess whether or not you should be moving that rate if you're going by that formula. You need to decide that based on what's going on in your market. So I guess I'm not sure who's driving, but I think there's one more slide on this. This is more of the same, which is if you're moving into winter and you're in a small market, you may not want to create, and you're not fully occupied, you may not want to create any opportunity for churn. But ECRI is an effective tool. If you're a solid operator, you don't want to be 100% full. That means you're not moving your rates enough. So if you're heading into spring or even any time of the year, if you're starting to approach 95, 96%, you want to free up some inventory because the tenant's either going to stay and pay more or they're going to move out, and you can lease that because you're full. You've probably got, you're willing to hold on to some higher rates in the market, and you can backfill them with somebody who's going to pay more. So it's it's not a one size fits all thing. You got to be looking at the market. You got to be looking at your own occupancy, and then you got to be looking at the individual tenant to put this all together. You could build a pretty simple spreadsheet. I mean, I think we even have one online that you can download. It's just an Excel formula, and then you can play around with it. But there's no prevailing rule here. It depends on the submarket and facility dynamics. I think that's all that we've got on that. We don't need to go any more on it since we've talked about it at length.
So one of the things that we're seeing in the market, obviously there's increased competition. So again, becoming more competitive in that market and understanding your market, the more knowledge you have. And again, with StoreTrack, we don't track just rates, and this is something I think that largely goes unnoticed, unfortunately, with our optimized platform. We also track. We have what's called a marketing scorecard, and this is a great way for people to see, what is your competition doing? What tools are they using? And what's the frequency? And we put an actual scorecard based on your ability to rent online. Are you using Google Maps? Are you using a number of different tools? We'll also tell you, you can see on the bottom left-hand corner of this slide, you'll see that we're calling this market neutral. Some are highly competitive. So those are going to be your markets where people are paying for Google, ad space. They're on the aggregator sites. They're using like every tool available. So again, this is where scale comes in. This is where, a lot of times the conversation comes in for a new developer or a new operator. Do I go with a third-party management company because they're probably going to be a little bit more effective in that highly competitive market? So it's decision making, even when you're developing a property, to understand what you're coming into in that market. Because again, a lot of times that marketing dollar, for whatever reason, seems to either get overlooked or downplayed, and it is a big factor. And again, it's all part of your operating expense.
Okay, great. So just to sort of expand on that a little bit with some of our perspectives managing these stores, is benchmarking your prices is important. If you are spending marketing dollars, AdWords, Sparefoot, what have you, and then you don't have the right pricing, you're going to be wasting a lot of that money. So you sort of want to match the market. There's opportunities to exceed it if your location is better located or a higher graded facility. But generally speaking, you want to be pretty close to the market. But just be careful not to needlessly move the market down yourself. So if you're in some town, 5 facilities, all 5 facilities are on StoreTrack. If you cut your rates, they're all going to get pinged, and then they're going to cut their rates and maybe get $1 below you and so on. So you probably haven't accomplished anything. You've just made everyone worse off. If you're in a market where no one's on StoreTrack or no one's paying attention, and you cut your rates and you're the cheapest game in town, and that works, based on what your operating expenses are, maybe that's great. So you just always want to make sure whatever data you're seeing or your strategy, you kind of sanity check it to make sure it's working. Factor in seasonality. We talked about that. An interesting thing too is a lot of rate cuts can often be unnecessary. If you just look at the data, you get more bookings in the summer. Rates are highest in the summer. So if you just sort of charted that out, it'd be like, oh, higher rates means more bookings. So you need to understand, but that's not the case. It's just in the summer, people absolutely need storage. There's more demand. You're full. You can charge more. In the winter, just cutting your rates actually bring in additional customers. Right now, I don't need storage. There's no rate that's going to make me spend a Saturday renting a truck and going there rather than hanging out with my friends and family, right? So you need to understand, are these rate changes actually doing anything? And then on your website, use visual cues to show how you are. If you're running promotions, show them clearly so people understand. We like just a red line, makes people feel like they're getting a deal, regardless if they are or not. And just keep it simple. You don't want to stress people out when they're booking or having them do this, complex mental math of 75% off month 2, 10% off month 1, $50 off month 3, and having them calculate that all. That's not necessary, we found. Okay, next slide, please. And then sort of improving conversion rates. This is just, again, if you're marketing and your pricing well, you still need to seal the deal. So how can you convert on these leads? So following up ASAP. The quicker if your competitors are following up, you want to follow up faster than them. You at least match them. If they're not following up, you can now have an advantage. Optimizing for after the click. So we talked about this, just get people on your website, make sure your booking flow is easy, make sure they can complete the booking online, doesn't require a call from your manager, doesn't say, hey, stop by the store, so on. Invest in local SEO. This is sort of the gift that keeps on giving because it's infrastructure building, but it pays dividends over time with no real incremental costs. Unlike AdWords or Sparefoot, where you're paying for each booking, this you're just paying, you're setting up right, and it'll pay dividends. And then leverage qualitative data and make sure it's quality data too. So that's both using products like StoreTrack, but then it's also using what you know about your facility and what StoreTrack doesn't know. So it's listening to call recordings. Everyone's complaining that, hey, this price is too high. The competitor has it lower. Check that out and adjust accordingly. So try and use your local knowledge and data that's only relevant to your facility to drive some of your decision making.
Real quick, I wanted to touch on the local SEO, and again, that's not our specialty by any means, but I do talk to a lot of people, and again, for people who haven't been paying attention, Google has changed how they're displaying their rankings now. So there's literally three different categories. You've got your map area, you've got your paid section, and then it's kind of Google's recommendations. And there are a few operators now who have become very good at, not by outspending, like if you're in a market with Public Storage or Extra Space, you're not going to outspend them. But one of the things on the SEO side, between the Google reviews and listing all the features on your website. So again, it's like simple things that people tend to overlook. If you have more data there or more information, Google's going to give that a little bit heavier weight. And again, I'm not saying, write a book, but having those features really help. And there's a couple of examples. I'm not going to mention anybody by name, but that do a very good job and can compete in those bigger markets. So again, that local SEO and having somebody that understands it's really, really critical.
You can mention our name, Jim.
Okay. Yeah. White label. Yes.
Well, we are out of time, unfortunately, but I do want to let the audience know that this tomorrow you'll receive an email so you can watch a replay of our recording today. You can also download the presentation so you can see all of the slides. You'll also get all of this contact information so you can reach out to James, Christine, Peter, or Alex if you have any questions. And I want to thank everyone on our panel for coming. Obviously, we need to make longer Self-Storage Unlocked webinars because and I'm going to take everyone off. Thank you again. And I'm going to bring up Aaliyah to announce our winner.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Aaliyah, how are
Hello?
you?
Oh my gosh, I can't complain. I really can't complain. Thank you guys so much for putting on such a great webinar. We were really popping off in the comments. We're having a great time. So, as promised,
our grand prize winner.
Right? Drum roll.
I don't have a drum roll.
We've got Gary Peterson. Thank you guys all so much for all the comments and for keeping us occupied. Really some awesome questions, hard-hitting questions, and I hope you guys had a great time.
Yeah, thank you, Peter, Gary, and all of our panelists for being just sharing so much information, for asking your questions, being interactive with us. We really appreciate that. It makes the webinar so much more fun. And Gary, if you will please send your name and email to mari@thesboa.com. Use subject line SSU winner, and she will send you that Amazon gift card as soon as she hears from you. We're going to go ahead and end our stream today. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Stay warm, stay safe, and we'll see you I will say 2 more weeks. We're going to see you for Self-Storage Unlocked with Shannon from XPS. And she will be talking about prepping now to lease up faster, because obviously that season is upon us, or it will be very soon. So we have to get ready, make those lists, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone.
If you're a self-storage operator, investor, or developer, having access to the right market data is critical for success. StoreTrack is the industry's leading provider of self-storage market intelligence. Access the most accurate, up-to-date data available to self-storage professionals to help you make informed decisions with confidence. The self-storage market is constantly evolving, with pricing shifts, supply changes, and new developments shaping the landscape. Without accurate data, you could miss key opportunities or fall behind the competition. For operators, StoreTrack provides data-driven insights to optimize pricing, maximize occupancy, and stay competitive in any market. Track local supply, demand, and competitor activity in real time. If you're looking to invest or develop in self-storage, StoreTrack helps identify the best markets, analyze demand, and evaluate pricing potential. Make smarter site selection decisions with comprehensive market reports and analytics. Whether you're managing facilities, expanding your portfolio, or planning your next investment, we've got the insights you need. No matter your goal, StoreTrack has the right solution for you. Automate competitor rate tracking, optimize rates, and maximize revenue, integrate pricing data into your software, or identify new investment opportunities. Let's help you reach your goals. Get started today. Contact us to see what solution is the right one for you, or request a demo of our products at storetrack.com.